Um, and that song just wrecked my life. That was I got to get in message mode, but man, I've just as I was pressing into it, there's just been a lot of fear and a lot of worry that my wife and I have been wrestling through with some family stuff, and that got me good. That was good. So we've been going through this series. Well, first I want to talk about this idea of home field advantage. And so if you've heard of home field advantage, it's a real thing. I didn't make it up, I promise. And it's this idea that when you're playing a sport or a game, that's a lot of times where it comes from, that you know the environment, you know the stadium, you know the fans, they know you, and so they're all cheering for you. You're going to be encouraged. And the truth is, it's proven that a lot of times that gives teams an advantage at winning the game. Similarly, quite the opposite, when a team visits and they don't have home field advantage, they're not encouraged. In fact, sometimes they even get booed. The majority of the people in the stadium are not rooting for them. They don't know the environment. They don't know the culture. And so that is an extreme disadvantage for them in that game. But I would argue that home field advantage isn't limited just to sports and competitions. I mean, how many of you have walked into a room where everybody knows each other except you? How many of you have walked onto a team maybe, and you've joined a team, and you want to fit in, but you're kind of left apart, and you instantly feel like an outsider? And for some of us, the tough part is, maybe that's in your family, where you go home and you just don't feel like you belong. You want to be accepted, but you just don't connect. Maybe it's at school or on a project. Maybe it's in your group of friends. You want to be their friends, but you're just not sure if they want to be yours. This happens all around us. Maybe it's here. Maybe it's when you come to church on Sunday and you don't feel welcome. You don't feel cared for. What about Wednesday night? Where you've come for the first time and you don't feel like an insider yet and you're still trying to figure this thing out. Or maybe you've been coming for a while and for whatever reason you just haven't had the chance, or maybe someone hasn't done their part for you to get connected, for you to feel a part of the team. And the question is, in that situation, what's your part? What's our part? When it comes to being welcome and feeling welcomed, what's our part? If you have your Bibles, I want to invite you to open up to Luke chapter 15. And as you're getting there, we've been going through this series, and it's been really neat because it's been this idea that you become who you follow. But the thing is, for most of us, we're not just going to follow anybody, and we're not going to follow them just because of their position. Now, God knows most of you, there's been a teacher, their position says that they should be leading you, but sometimes you stray a little bit. Or what about with your parents? There have been times where each and every one of us hasn't been a great listener for our parents. Usually, our ability to follow isn't based off of their position. A lot of times, it's based off of who they are in our relationship with them. So if I become who I follow and I follow the people who have the character that is worthy of being followed, the question is, Jesus being the Son of God is incredibly important. In fact, it's vital, but what about his character? How do I know that he is worthy of being followed? So over the past couple weeks, we've learned how Jesus was incredibly humble and laid down his life for others. We learned how loving he was and how caring he was for us. And today we're going to learn about how welcoming he is. In Luke 15, verse 1, it says, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, 'This man welcomes sinners and eats with them.'" And there's already this incredible division that has already been created. On one side, we have sinners and tax collectors. And so let's look at them real quick. Sinners, these are the people who are outcasts. These are the people who have done things, they've adulterated, they've stolen, they've done all these things that you're not supposed to do. Society knows that they've done these things, and so they've been cast aside. Tax collectors, well, first off, not many people love taxes. But on top of that, we have to remember that Rome had taken over that area, and these were citizens that were now working for Rome, taking money for them. And there's a word for that they were called. A tax collector, a synonym for that in that day was traitor. And so you've got a group of sinners and traitors over here, and Jesus, and then you've got these Pharisees, right? And we've talked about the Pharisees. These are the religious elite. These guys follow the rules. These guys do it right. These guys are better than all those people. That's how they viewed it. And they're saying, Jesus, you're supposed to be this religious leader. Jesus, you're supposed to have it all figured out. Why in the world are you hanging out with sinners and with traitors? But did you notice that word? That verse said, he welcomes them. He wasn't afraid to get with them. In fact, that was his mission. Jesus was here to get with. He wasn't worried about the elite. He wasn't worried about the religious elect. No, he wanted to be with the people he created. Jesus was committed to making outsiders insiders. I'll say it again. Jesus was committed to making outsiders insiders. Think about it. That was his entire ministry. It didn't matter if you were a fisherman, a doctor, a sinner, a Pharisee. He had every single one of those as a part of the ministry that he led out. In fact, all of those were considered apostles. Jesus, his goal wasn't to say, you're on the outside, you're not good enough. His goal was to say, look at me, join in with me, get in relationship with me, get to know me. Because that person that you work and fall away, that doesn't matter. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about who you're with. And if you're with me, you're good. Jesus came to make outsiders insiders. It continues in verse 4. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? Actually, I have an illustration to help us understand what that looks like, leaving the 99. That's my daughter. When she was 4 months old, she was leaving the 99. But in all seriousness, the truth is that Jesus is saying, look, man, I don't want just some. I don't want most. I want every single one of my sheep. All of them. And he knows that that's not going to happen. He knows that some of the sheep aren't going to accept him. He knows that some of them are going to cast him away, but that's not the point. The point is that he is going to go to every single one. See, some of us, we know this is true. That Jesus wants us. That Jesus would chase after us. That he's willing to go meet us where we're at, even if it's ugly. And there's also some of us that believe it's a little too good to be true, if we're honest. If we're honest, there's some of us where we just feel like maybe I've strayed just a little bit too far. Maybe I'm just a little too deep into that sinner, tax collector, traitor category over here, where he wouldn't even eat with me, where I wouldn't be welcomed. See, those lies sneak in, lies that I believed 10 years ago. Guys, I can't even say it enough how far I believed I had fallen from God. I didn't think he cared about me. How could a God care about a guy who has messed up so much and turned away from him so much? But look at this passage. He says, no. If you stray, I'm going to go after you. I'm going to chase you down. I'm going to pursue you. I'm going to get to you because I love you. See, the truth is you are either a part a part of or apart from Jesus. You're either together with Jesus or you're separate from Jesus. You're either moving closer to him or you're moving further away from him. Those are the only two options that you can have. You're doing one or you're doing the other. But Jesus doesn't wait. Jesus doesn't say, hey, as soon as that sheep pokes his head out of the forest and says, I think I want to go home. He doesn't say, I'm going to wait for the wolf to come so that sheep learns its lesson. He doesn't say, I'm going to let it wander for a while and then I'll go looking after I eat. He says, I'm going to find a field. I'm going to leave the 99 where they're safe, and I'm going to go after that sheep with everything that I've got. Because you're worth risking for. Jesus cares about you so much. It's not that he doesn't care about sin. He just cares about you more. And so there's not a place you can go that he's not willing to meet you at. He will meet you where you are at. And when he finds that sheep, this is the coolest part. Here's what he doesn't do. He doesn't go up to that sheep and say, sheep, you messed up, knock it over the head and drag it back to camp. He doesn't sell the sheep because it wasn't good enough and that's all the value that it had. You guys remember what he did? Picks it up. Verse 5. When he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, rejoice with me. Gotta remember where I was. I have found my lost sheep. We're gonna rejoice. So here's the thing. It can be uncomfortable when you're in a new environment or in an environment where you're trying to get plugged in. Think about it. Have you ever been carried over somebody's shoulders? In the Army, like that was one of the training drills that we used to have to do. We would pick our buddy up. We'd have to practice dragging him like 5 different ways. One time we'd put him over our shoulder and we'd have to run across the field and we'd have to get down and then we'd have to get back up. And it was uncomfortable for the guy carrying. It was far worse if you were being carried. Man, that sheep, probably not super comfortable. And there are going to be times when you're going into new environments that Jesus is calling you to, times where Nikita is going to a completely different country. I hope it's cool that I gave you a shout out. I did not ask. But thanks. But the point is, it's not, Jesus' target isn't comfortability. His target is, you are so welcome. You are so welcome to him that he's okay with you not being comfortable. He just wants you to be close. He's okay with carrying you over his shoulders because he's going to rejoice. And why does he rejoice? Because that's the mission of his church. Guys, that's why we're here. We are here on a mission to make and send disciples that love and live like Jesus. That's the target. And we can't do that unless we're making outsiders insiders. We can't do that if we're seeking the lost. We can't do that if we're making the people that are coming here regularly that don't feel connected, and we're reaching out to them and saying, hey, you belong here. I care about you. I want you to win. I want you to feel welcome. You're loved. And so what's our part? If that's what Jesus does, what is our part in all of this? There are a few different people that I'm talking to tonight. First, if you're apart from Jesus, if you don't know him, I am so glad you're here. I think it is so cool that you have joined us today. That's incredible. And I want to encourage you, keep asking questions. You're here because you've got questions. Keep asking them. Invite us into that so that we can walk beside you. If you've been here for a while and you just don't feel connected, let us know. The last thing that I want is for a student to be in a group of people and completely alone. That is not what this mission is about. Jesus chose 12. He didn't do ministry by himself. And so my challenge to you is let us know. Tell your leader, tell me, tell someone that you trust that you're not feeling connected, and help us understand what you need to be invited in. Because you belong here and you matter. And lastly, if you're not new and you are connected, if you've been here a while and you call the movement your home, if you call Sci Life Church your home, you've been here, you get it, you got a group of friends, don't let it stop there. Jesus' mission wasn't, I'm going to make 12 disciples and they're going to sit together and play Uno and hang out and that's going to be it. What did he do with his disciples? Olivia, that is awesome. So Olivia just said, he spread them out and he sent them out pretty much. He said, you're going to go do this. Like, I've shown you what to do, you're going to do it. Movement, that's why we're here. Listen, I want to have fun with you. I want to play games. I want to have fun events. I want to go play paintball at summer camp and mess Seth up. Like, I get it. Those are things that I truly love doing. But at the same time, the end goal is we're going to go out and we're going to make disciples. And the only way that we can do that is by inviting people in. And so when you get into your small groups, you're going to have an opportunity to really think about what it looks like for your group to really care for others well. What it looks like when someone first comes into your group for that first time, what are they experiencing? Are you trying to get to know them, or are they hearing a bunch of inside jokes that they don't get? Are you sharing your heart and getting to know theirs, or are you more worried about having a good time? Because movement, we've got a mission. We've joined a movement that Jesus started 2,000 years ago, and it does not end with us. And so we need to start inviting people in, raising people up, and sending people out. Would y'all pray with me? Jesus, we love you so much. And you call us to do things that are so much bigger than ourselves. And honestly, I don't know that we're going to have the strength half the time. And so I ask that you give us the courage, the boldness, and the strength to live this out in the way that you call, to seek out the newcomer, to seek out the lost, to reach out to those sheep. Lord, help us be a community that is not a clique that is locked in, but a community that invites people in to be a part of something so much bigger than ourselves. God, we love you and we seek you in this. And for those of us that don't feel connected, Lord, I ask that you show up in big ways. That they connect with us, but more importantly, they connect in a deep level with you, Lord. That we can all be changed for it. In your name, amen.